This is a presentation on Plato by Rafia, Zareen, and Laura. Plato lived during the time of 428 to 348 BC. Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher and was the student of Socrates, who greatly influenced his thought process. He was also the teacher of Aristotle. Plato's writings explored justice, beauty, and equality. After the Peloponnesian War, during 431 to 404 BC, Athens was defeated and the Spartans changed the legal system from a democracy to an oligarchy, which is a form of power structure in which power effectively rests with a small number of people. Two of Plato's relatives, Charmides and Critias, were influential features in the new government and were part of the 30 tyrants in which Plato encouraged. However, their brief rule extremely reduced the rights for Athenian citizens, which caused Plato to disagree with this ideal of legal system. Shortly after, the oligarchy legal system was overthrown and democracy was restored. Due to this, Plato considered pursuing his political career as he previously had the hopes to do so. However, his opinion towards politics changed as Socrates, who was Plato's teacher, whose methods of dialogue and debate impressed and influenced him greatly, was executed due to a democratic vote. This completely changed Plato's mind and caused him to leave Athenian politics forever. After Socrates' death, he traveled the Mediterranean for 12 years, studying geology, astronomy, geometry, and mathematics. Plato's contribution to legal thought could be separated into two periods. During 387 to 361 BC, Plato began to establish his own voice on the ideals of justice, courage, wisdom, and moderation of the individual and society. During this time, he writes The Republic, which explores just government, and was Plato's most influential works. He also founded the Academy during 387 BC, which was the first European university, which was a major event during that time. Then, during 361 BC and so on, Plato took a closer look at his own metaphysical ideas and explored ethics and morality.
Plato's view on the nature of law. Plato took the widest possible view on law. In the Republic, as well as other Platonic dialogues, there is a relationship between conceptual analysis and critical evaluation of beliefs. One of the most fundamental and ethical political concepts is justice. Plato considered the nature and value of justice and the other virtues as they appear in both the structure of society as a whole and in the personality of an individual human being. The Greek equivalent to the phrase natural law is very rare in his works. The idea of nature as normative for human affairs as a rule for reason. It was a product of reason and he identified it with nature himself. Plato's purpose of law. The smooth operation of a whole society will require some additional services that become necessary only because of the creation of social organization itself, the adjudication of disputes among members, and the defense of the city against external attacks, for example. Justice itself is not the exclusive responsibility of any one class of citizen, but emerges from the harmonious interrelationships of each component of society with every other. Plato believed that law had a strong relationship with society. Plato believed that the ideal state comprises members of three distinct classes: rulers, soldiers, and the people. The rulers and soldiers were called the guardians, who were responsible for management of society itself. The guardians collectively are those individuals whose special craft is just the task of governance itself. Rulers who dissolve disagreements among citizens and make decisions about public policy. Soldiers whose function is to defend the state against external enemies and to enforce its laws. If citizens express any dissatisfaction with the roles to which they are assigned, he proposed that they be told the useful falsehood that human beings possess different natures that fit each of them particular function within the operation of society as a whole. The propositions performed by this by the separate classes working together for the common good. Since the rulers are responsible for making decisions according to which the entire city will be governed, they must have the virtue of wisdom. Soldiers charged with the defense of the city must possess the virtue of courage. The rest of the people in the city must follow its leaders instead of pursuing their private interests, so they must exhibit the virtue of moderation. Plato believed that there were 5 different types of governments: aristocracy, timocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny. The most perfect contrast between justice and injustice arises in the comparison between the aristocratic and tyrannic instances. The best form of government which he advances in the Republic is a philosophical aristocracy or monarchy. He is against democracy because of the danger of excessive freedom, the false sense of equality, and that it is highly corruptible. Philosophers will not only rule because they will be best prepared for this, but also if they do not, the city will no longer be well governed and may fall prey to economic decline, factionalism, and civil war. For Plato, government exists for the benefit of all citizens and all social classes, and must mediate between potentially conflicting interests.
The end.